Hi guys, Monastery here, and in today's video we're gonna talk about the new Nightfall weapon called Scintillation. This is a strand-heavy adaptive burst linear fusion rifle that will drop from Nightfall completions. So let's take a deeper look at this weapon. So first off, let's talk about the three different origin perks this weapon comes with. We have Stunning Recovery, Vanguard's Vindication, and Vice Stinger. Stunning Recovery states that upon stunning a champion, partially reloads your magazine, triggers health recovery, and improves recovery for a short duration. This means that after you stun a champion, you reload 25% of your magazine from reserves, restore 60 HP, and increase your recovery by 40 for 3 seconds. Vanguard's Vindication states that final blows with this weapon grant a small amount of health. This is 10 HP per final blow with this weapon. And lastly, we have Vice Stinger that states damaging an enemy with this weapon has a small chance to reload the magazine and increase movement speed while aiming downside. This means that whenever you hit an enemy and you activate the perk, you have a 10% chance to refill 25% of the magazine from reserves. This lasts for 7 seconds and has a 4-second cooldown in between shots. Out of the 3 origin perks, Vice Stinger is obviously the strongest because it plays into other perks on this weapon, and overall it's pretty helpful for DPS phases to not reload as much as usual. Origin Trade is also great because it has 3 chances to refill the magazine per burst with this weapon. So every time you pull the trigger, there's 3 different chances that you can hit the 10% reload chance. The 2 other perks are not good on heavy linear fusion rifles because you mainly want to use this weapon for damage and not add clear or other things like that. So let's talk about the perks that this weapon can roll with in the 3rd and 4th column. In the 3rd column, we have perks like Envious Assassin, Rapid Hit, Rewind Rounds, Slice, Cornered, and Auto-Loading Holster. In the 4th column, the perk traits are Surrounded, Hatchling, Reservoir Burst, Bait and Switch, Firing Line, and Attrition Orbs. So let's talk about the perks that make this weapon really good. In the 3rd column, we have 2 perks that stand out immediately. The first one I want to talk about is Envious Assassin, which states that defeating targets with other weapons before drawing this one transfers ammo to the magazines from reserves. This effect can overflow the magazine based on the number of targets defeated. The way this perk works is that you can overfill the magazine by a total of 200. That means each activation is 100% overfill of the magazine. That means every time you pull this weapon out after getting a final blow with other weapons, for example, special weapons give you 20%, heavy weapons give you 20%, and primary weapons give you 10%. That means get a few kills with other weapons, pull out your weapon, get 100% overflown, put the weapon away again, do a few more kills, get it out again, and then you are at 200% overfilling the magazine. Once you enhance this perk, it will increase the overfill from 10% to 12.5% for primary weapons and 20% to 22.5% on special and power weapons, which is nice because you will need less final blows in total to overfill the magazine to 200%. Just keep in mind that once you overfill this weapon beyond its normal capacity, you will not be able to use Vice Stinger until you are at or below the normal magazine size. The second perk on the 3rd column I want to take a look at is Rewind Rounds. When this weapon's magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of hits. The way this perk works is upon emptying the magazine, you will refill the magazine for 60% of the number, and once it's enhanced, you will go up to 60%. So for this weapon, it will go as follows. You hit the first 6 shots, you get 3 back, then you get 2 back, you get 1 back, and you would full reload. This perk has an amazing synergy with Vice Stinger because it has the potential to refill the magazine before rewind rounds activate, so you can refill even more shots back into your magazine without reloading and possibly keep shooting all your reserves away. These 2 perks are definitely the 2 perks that I recommend looking after. If you farm for an adept version of this weapon, you can get both perks at the same time on this weapon. So let's look at the 4th column and see what perks we can pair this with. The perk I want to talk about first is Bait and Switch, because dealing damage with all equipped weapons within a short time will give this weapon a damage boost. This means once you do damage with all 3 of your weapons, this weapon will get a 30% damage buff for 7 seconds, and this buff cannot be refreshed. Once you enhance this perk, it goes up from 7 seconds to 11. The other perk I want to talk about is situational, but a pretty good option once you can use it. The perk I'm talking about is Surrounded, that states this weapon gains bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity. So while there are 3 enemies within 50 meters of range, this weapon will get a 40% damage buff that lingers for 1.5 seconds after there are no more enemies. Once you enhance this perk, This buff goes up to 47%, which is a great damage increase. It's almost 50%, but as I said, it is pretty situational because you will have to have 3 enemies close to you. There is situations where this buff can be used. As I said, it is pretty situational. There's only one encounter I can really think of right now, and that is the Ghost of the Deep final boss, where there's a lot of thralls around you and you can pretty easily proc it. But other than that, there's not that many parts of the game where you can really use it, but once you can use it, it is probably the best buff because you don't need to shoot anything really. You just have to have enemies around you and you get an almost 50% damage increase when it's enhanced, and I think that is a really good perk to keep in mind. So keep a roll with that. If you get one, it's pretty good. Just get Rewind Rounds or Envious Assassin with Surrounded, which is just an amazing roll. Just have it in the bag. There might be a situation where you can use it. So let's talk about the other perks that might not be as good as these but are also on this weapon. First off, I want to talk about Rapid Hit and Auto Loading Holster. These are not as much as contenders as Envious Assassin and Rewind Rounds, because for Rapid Hit you have to keep hitting your enemy's precision point to get the reload speed, and Auto Loading Holster you could just use Envious Assassin, overfill your magazine and don't really have to reload or stow the weapon away to just wait for it to getting reloaded. Another trait on the third column is Slice, which is a utility trait usually, and this weapon is more for damage than utility, so I don't really see a use in this weapon unless you want to maybe go into a master raid and like give the boss the debuff of Sever so he deals less damage to you. Maybe I can somewhat see that, but there's better options. As I said, Envious Assassin and Rewind Rounds are just way better for damage, which this weapon is made for. Cornet could work with Surrounded, but potentially Rewind Rounds and Envious Assassin are yet better choices in the third column, because Cornet is like Surrounded, a very situational perk, and I don't really see being used on this weapon. In the fourth column, we have things like Hatchling, which will drop a Threadling on precision final blows or 3 rapid final blows, which is also not a real thing because this weapon is not for ag clear. It is made for damage, so I don't really see Hatchling being used. If it would be on precision hit or rapid precision hits, like 5 rapid precision hits or something like that, then I could maybe see this perk being used, but other than that, I don't really see a use for this perk. Attrition Orbs is also a more utility perk than actual damage perk, because you will create orbs of power while doing sustained damage, which is like 67% of your magazine, to create an orb that only grants you 0.8 super energy, which I don't really see because yet again this weapon is made for damage. Then in the fourth column we also have Reservoir Burst, which is another perk that is not really good. Yes, it will give you a 25% damage buff while you are at or above the magazine. This would pair very well with Envious Assassin to overfill the magazine and give the buff for longer, but the rest of the magazine you won't have the damage buff no more, so your damage will drastically fall off. Lastly, we have Firing Line, which can work, but you will get a weaker damage buff of 20%, while Baited Switch is at 30% and Surrounded is at 40 or Enhanced 47. Firing Line is also very situational and you can't use it alone because you will have to have 2 teammates around you to get that 20% damage buff. In situations like raids, where you can stand together with your team and do damage, yes, it would work, but yet again, I think that either Surrounded or Baited Switch are just better because you have 30 or 47% damage increase. So my personal god roll on Scintillation is in the third column, either Rewind Rounds or Envious Assassin, and the fourth we have Bait and Switch, which is amazing, and as I said, keep a roll with Surrounded because you might need it in certain situations. Another thing I wanted to do in this video is damage testing. Please keep in mind that these damage numbers are not 100% accurate, because we got flinched from the Ogre and Grasp of Avarice, and we just wanted to see what you could get if you hit most of your shots with this weapon. The weapons we compared this to is Sleeper Simulant, then Cataclysmic with 4th Time the Charm and Baited Switch, Doom Petitioner with Reconstruction and Precision Instrument, Briar's Contempt with Reconstruction and Surrounded, Storm Chaser with Clown Cartridge and Firing Line, Line in the Sand with Clown Cartridge, Bait and Switch, and Fire and Forget with Field Prep and Chill and Clip. And lastly, we have the Taipan with Triple Tap and Firing Line. So as I said, the first weapon we tested was Scintillation, which hit a total for 1.62 million on this Ogre. The next weapon I thought would deal more damage was my friend's crafted Cataclysmic with 4th Time the Charm and Bait and Switch, which hit a total of 1.1 million damage. Next, we had the Briar's Contempt. We left some thralls over to get surrounded procced. This did a total of 1.4 million damage. After that, I tested the Doom Petitioner with Reconstruction and Precision Instrument. This gave us a total damage of 1.5 million damage. Then my Line in the Sand that I got recently with Concarged and Bait and Switch got a total of 1.1 million damage. After that, we tested a Taipan with Triple Tap and Firing Line that gave us a total of 1.7 million damage, which is really close to the Scintillation. Another weapon I wanted to test was the Storm Chaser with Concarge and Firing Line that I got a while ago. This weapon did 1.3 million damage in the test. The next weapon I tested because I was curious was the Fire and Forget with Field Prep and Chill Clip, which totaled us at 1.2 million damage, which I really did not expect to deal that much damage. And lastly, we tested Sleeper Simulant, which was also hitting pretty hard with 1.5 million damage in total. So here's the damage ranking with the numbers that we got in our test. Please keep in mind that these are not 100% accurate and they may be varying from your tests. I'll try to get these damage numbers mostly accurate soon with a team so we can go to the Templar and the Vault of Glass, which will make it much easier to hit the crit spots with the linear fusion rifle. Alright, that would be it for today's video. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel for more videos like that, and we will see each other in the next video, Guardian.